Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and boy was the launch of Alchemy a wonderful success, and by that I mean, well, how'd the last couple launches go? We have horrible client performance, we've got animation slowing down, we've got what looks like memory leaks. I even heard that problem is back where you end a game, and then it just never sends you to the homepage, it just kind of stalls. I've had people, just like I predicted, fail to load the opening screen. We had people not applying the patch correctly, but that ain't nothing new. I heard they left in placeholder text where you hover over certain cards and it just says like text or whatever, sample text, or hey Alan, add some details. They must have hired the guy from Hitman. I think somebody said they left in like a sample event too, or like an unlabeled event or a mislabeled event or something that just said like test event. Not sure if people could join it. I heard from, I think, Wizards themselves on Twitter. It's hard to keep all this straight. I didn't know I should be taking notes. Something about, like, if you add in the showcase version of a rebalanced card, it'll add the regular one instead. So, like, if it'll disqualify your deck and you don't know why, or if it'll run you into the Alchemy queue with the pre-rebalanced card, which could be a problem. I'm not sure which it was, if you could get into a game or if it would just let you save the deck that way. I don't remember exactly what they said. I think it was kind of vague. But like, wow. The worst one I heard, oh my gosh, did a lot of people tell me about this. People were buying the bundle. I don't know why. Can you not, if this is you, can you just not do this? You're supposed to be boycotting this trash, not jumping on board, giving them your credit card day one when it doesn't even work. But yeah, they bought the bundle. It's supposed to be, I don't know, like 20 packs, and it was like a whole bunch short. I think people are getting like 15 instead. Oops. They can't even give you your paid premium crap that you're overpaying for. How sad is that? When I first opened the client and they said, oh, here's all the free cards you get, because like if I own 3 of one and 1 of another and 4 of another of cards that were that had been rebalanced, right off the bat, I get the rebalanced version of the card. And to me, the lineup didn't look right. I went for the screenshot button, accidentally hit like enter, clicked the mouse or something, oops, clicked off it. That pisses me off. But I compared it to a full list right now, and they're like, it appears that I own both versions, which means, because I'm like, the stuff they show on the screen, I'm like, I have 4 of those in a deck right now, I swear. Or I used to play with those, or I drafted 2 of those and it only says 1. So for all I know, the update deleted my cards. Because like if something popped up 1 and I'm like, I had 2 or 3 of that, I look right now and I have 1. So that's nice. So that's how the launch went. Let's cover the rest of the spoilers. Yay! So first up, we got Tybalt, Wicked Tormentor. He's a 5-cost loyalty with +1. Add 2 red mana. Draft a card from his spellbook, and then exile it. You can cast it until end of turn. So a semi-tutor that funds itself for +1. That's fair. Then his other +1, it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker unless its controller has Tybalt deal 3 damage to them. If they do, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So you can change the target to your face and stop him from hitting what he was going to hit. Interesting. I got to give it to him. That is actually a little interesting. Then -X, create X11, oh god, Red Devil creature tokens with when they die, deal 1 damage to any target. Yeah, I hate those. In the words of everybody on Reddit, thanks, I hate it. Next up, we got Gutmorn, Pact-Bound Servant. It's a 3-cost 1/3. Oh god, people warned me about this one. I already recognize the art. Oh no, legendary mythic. You can't get much worse than this. A 3-drop demon. Oh my god, just kill me. I don't remember what this says, but somebody said, oh, it's basically another whatever, and I didn't even read it. All right, Flying Death Touch. Okay, we do need more of that, actually. Anyway, yeah, when it enters the battlefield, each player discards a non-land card, so that's annoying. Well, each player, though, I mean, that's you too. But then whenever a player discards a card during your turn, they choose another player. That player conjures a duplicate of that card into their hand. It perpetually gains. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast a spell. What the hell does that actually do, then? Did I read that wrong? So it enters the battlefield, each player, you and your opponent, discard a non-land card. When a player, so you and your opponent, discard a card during your turn, they choose another player, so you each choose each other, and that player conjures a duplicate of, oh, I get it, a duplicate of that card into their hand. Okay, you each get each other's card. I get it. That's stupid. Why did people say this was really bad? Maybe I got the wrong card here. This is like switcheroo, but semi-blind. This actually almost looks like fun. But then again, I mean, keep your eyes off my hand and keep your hands off my cards. I mean, is that too hard for you to understand, Wizards? Next up, Tireless Angler. He's out there playing the fishing minigame, hardcore. It's a 1/4 for 3 human rogue, and whenever an island enters the battlefield under your control, draft a card from Tireless Angler's spellbook. That could go really okay or really not based on what's in there, and I don't want to check. Next up, Sinister Reflections. It's a 2-cost and instant in blue. Oh boy. And conjure a duplicate of each of up to 2 target non-token creatures you control into your hand. So it has to be 2 that you control. It could be up to 2, but preferably 2. Then you still have to pay for their casting cost to get them into play. Now, there's ways to abuse the hell out of this in Historic. But in Standard, I mean, I think it kind of just does what it says on the tin, as the British people say. I mean, the problem is, like, you go get another Luminarch with this. I don't know who the hell would splash blue for that. But, like, you could have some toxic 2 or 3 cost crap in play and go get more of it, and the game's basically over. I mean, remember during the last, every single set in Standard right now during the spoiler season, I said, boy, they really should have put Legendary on that. This card is where it comes back to bite you in the ass, right here. Whenever I said, boy, you really shouldn't be allowed to have 2 of those in play. I mean, almost everything I said that about was an artifact or enchantment, but still. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, yeah, but it's like 3 out of 45 in your deck. How are you even going to go get another one? You'd have to really earn it, like either blind luck, which I hate it when people win games based on blind luck, or you'd have to tutor it, or you'd have to scry or draw your way into it. So, okay, at least there's a limitation. And yet, that stupid +1/+1 zombie card that costs 1 and Luminarch. How often do people have 2 of those on turn 2 or 3? Pretty damn often. So that's why this is problematic, because it just goes and gets them, and then you still have 3 of them left in your deck. So you could have 5 of them in play, and then people are just going to clone this spell. And it all goes down the toilet when you mix this with 0 drops. Anyway, next up we got Unexpected Conversion. It's a 3-cost sorcery, draw 2 cards. Then you may exile an instant or sorcery card from your hand. If you do, search your hand and library for any number of cards with the same name, exile them, then shuffle. Seek an instant or sorcery card for each card exiled from your hand this way. I kind of just started daydreaming in the middle of all that block of vague, stupid, repetitive text. I'm sure this does something stupid, but I'm going to have to read it again, I guess. I'm half tempted to move on to the next card. This sounded awful. Okay, you ditch one and go get all the rest of the copies. Gotcha. I mean, for 3 mana, that's actually kind of neat. Because, I mean, you don't instantly get anything. You kind of burn the majority of your turn's mana. But you set up a future turn with just ready to unload 4 of an instant or sorcery on someone. But we all know they're going to get 3 counterspells, 3 turns cards, or 3 spell duplicators, and now I just want to die. And then there's the ending. Let's just move on. Rime-Wall Protector, double blue, triple cost giant wizard with ward 1, because we needed more of that after the Manland. 3/4, when it enters battlefield, each other giant or wizard you control and each other giant or wizard card in your hand perpetually gains ward 1. Oh my god. If you guys haven't played against like the tier 1.5 current red-blue giants deck, it is insane. It's the one where whether that card's in play or in the graveyard, it doesn't matter. You're taking 2 or 3 damage every single time. And then they just bring out a doubler, then another doubler, and then clone it with the new blue spell. Just cancer. Now we got this. I think Giants is going to be tier 1 in Alchemy. Not that anybody's going to play it. Next up, Faithful Disciple. It's a 2-cost 2/2 human cleric, because we needed more of those in the game, obviously. Vigilance, great. And when it dies, draft a card from its spellbook. I can only imagine. Next up, Expedition Supplier. 3-cost 2/2 human warrior, and when it or another human enters battlefield under your control, conjure a card named Utility Knife, which isn't a very strong equipment, onto the battlefield. This ability triggers only once each turn. Whatever. They're trying to take the red-white equipment deck and make it be a thing, even though there's so much control, you'll never get away with it. Yeah, stop trying to make it a thing. It's not going to be a thing, Wizards. Next up, Town Razor Tyrant. It's a 4/4 flying dragon without haste. I guess they forgot to print that on the card. And when Town Razor Tyrant enters the battlefield, target land you don't control loses all abilities except mana abilities. Bye-bye, Manland. And gains at the beginning of your upkeep. This permanent deals 2 damage to you unless you sack it. Yes! Yes, a vanilla flying 4/4 dragon that costs double red because reserve list. And it punishes people for running fancy boy lands. But it's fine. They can not take damage from it as long as they get rid of it. The problem is you can just target a forest with this. So really, it's just land destruction. It should have said non-basic land. At least that I would have been kind of okay with, but anytime you destroy it without it being like that's the whole point of the spell and that's all it does, tradition, like the unwritten rules of the game, say it lets your opponent go get a replacement one. There's like 4 or 5 very common spells and effects that do that, and they all let you replace the land. It's just a color fixing destruction thing. And extremely problematic spell land thing. So I love this and hate it at the same time. I think the Treasure Dragon deck can go back to hell. So I guess that'll tilt the scales in favor of I hate this. Next, Blood Rage Alpha. It's a 4-cost 4/3 wolf because obviously werewolves needed an upgrade. That's becoming tier 1 as of recently. When it enters battlefield, choose one. Another target wolf or werewolf you control fights target creature you don't control. At least it's a true fight. And then whenever you cast your next wolf or werewolf spell, it gains when this creature enters the battlefield. It fights up to one target creature you don't control. Because there's such a difference between those two. Okay. Next up, Conductive Current. Oh god. A rare triple red sorcery. I can't wait to see what this does. It deals 3 damage to each creature. Choose an instant or sorcery card in your hand. It perpetually gains. If the spell would deal non-combat damage to a permanent player, it deals that much damage +2 instead. Okay, that's not nearly as bad as I was imagining. I thought it would be like, kidnap your opponent's creature, untap it, rip it in half, throw it in their face, and punch them in the balls. So active treason, but appropriately scaled up for the ridiculous new power level and appropriate for triple red. But no, it's just, upgrade one of your spells and then lightning bolt for too much mana, okay. Next up, Frenzied Geist Blaster. It's a 2-cost 2/2 human wizard. And I guess the unofficial mascot art for Alchemy. And he has prowess because the Is It Guild pseudo decks needed that right now. When he enters the battlefield, if there are 20 or more instants and or sorcery cards among cards in your graveyard, then you're an asshole. Oh wait, we've already read this one. It's graveyard, hand, and library, pardon me. You're still an asshole, but to a lesser degree. You may discard a card if you do seek an instant or sorcery card. Yeah, I don't know where we already heard about this, but we did. I don't know why this is marked as a spoiler, but okay, sure. Next up, Armed Scavenger, 2-cost 2/2, Human Warrior. At the beginning of your upkeep, draft a card from his spellbook, then exile it, you can play it. So unlimited free cards from his spellbook for doing nothing. I'm sure that won't be broken. Next up, Fearsome Whelp. It's a 2-cost 1/1 with flying, and at the beginning of your end step, each dragon card in your hand perpetually gains. This spell costs 1 less to cast. Are you f***ing kidding me? This is what you're doing to the Treasure Ramp Dragon deck. You're making every single high-cost dragon that the person is holding in their hand cost 1 less every single end step, stacking. And it starts on their turn 2, my turn 1, and they're guaranteed to go to 1 end step. So unless I blow this away with a 1-cost instant speed kill spell, which I do believe there's 1 of in the entire game right now, in standard constructed, not counting red spells, then this is gonna just end the game because every one of their dragons will come out for 1 cheaper. So it's like having treasures, but permanently. Now it's only stuff in their hand, but like, so what? And all the dragons have haste. I mean, this is unforgivable to put this on a card and think that anything's okay about this. Can't wait to see that one get banned. Next up, Brittle Blast. It's a 3-cost red instant, and creatures and planeswalkers your opponents control perpetually gain. If this permanent would die, exile it instead. Brittle Blast deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Good. Get that shit out of their graveyard. Don't let them resurrect it. Next up, 2-cost red instant. It deals 2 damage to any target. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play one of those cards until end of turn. So more spell spamming pseudo storm is it horseshit with actual is it artwork on it. Arguably. It's Innistrad, but it's also Izzet. I mean, that could go either way. Gee, thanks. I hate it. And we're back to Tybalt. Let me check. I think there was like 8 more. Yeah, there's more. Tenacious Pup, 1-cost 1/2 wolf. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. When you cast your next creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter, trample counter, and vigilance counter on it. And then in parentheses, in case you're an idiot, put this in your Innkeeper deck. I mean, this card is literally the entire Innkeeper ETB gain life deck, the green-white atrocity, which, mind you, does not need an upgrade in any way, and it's the whole deck in card form. And I don't know if they just, with the magic of digital, they made this a thing, but it just says when you cast your next creature spell, period, not this turn. I mean, it's a comma, but you get what I mean. So you already have a 1/2 defender for 1, which is like, at least in a draft, that's like a power move on turn 1. It's on tribal, so it could get boosted, and then sometime in the future, you're going to get something 1 bigger with trample and vigilance. That is ridiculous. Next up, Antique Collector. It's a 2-cost 2/2 human rogue, and it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, because of course it can't. This is one of the things where when you print 1 too many in a certain meta, it just gets completely broken, and this is like the 3rd or 4th creature that can't be blocked. Conditionally, but who gives a shit? And when it enters battlefield, creatures you control perpetually gain. When this creature dies, you may shuffle it into its owner's library if it's in your graveyard. If you do, investigate it. Or not it, just investigate in general. Who killed this creature? We have to get to the bottom of it. Honestly, in the meta right now, you'd probably want it in your graveyard, so this is probably just some kind of infinite loop protection where you could deck your opponent. Next up, we get to the colorless artifacts. Oh boy, Soul Stealer Axe. It's a 1-drop equipment. Equipped creature has trample, and whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, seek a card with mana value equal to the damage. That's kind of neat. Equip 2. Probably should cost 2 to drop and equip 3, because that's insane. But then again, it doesn't make the creature any bigger, so I'm kind of on the fence about that. Next up, Wicker Wing Effigy. It's a 3-cost 1/4 Scarecrow artifact creature, colorless, with Defender, and you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. You've got to be kidding me. Something else to free cast my elf deck. So now my elves have 3 sources of casting directly from the top of my library. Actually, I think 4. I just cut it from my deck. And they're all in standard. Wow, let alone, any other deck this could go in. This could go in a werewolf deck. This is ridiculous. Whenever you cast a creature spell from your library, it becomes a black bird. Oh, here we go. In addition to its other colors and types, has flying and has base power toughness 1/1. Okay, that makes a difference, but in my elf deck, it almost doesn't. You know why? Because it didn't say loses all abilities. In fact, they just gave up my elves flying. I don't care if a 2/2 enters as a 1/1, it sure as hell ain't staying that way. So it sounds like a neat card in theory, really it's just a disaster. Next up, Key to the Archive. It's a 4-cost artifact. Key to the Archive enters battlefield tapped, and when it enters battlefield, draft a card from its spellbook, then discard a card. And if you tap it, you can add 2 mana in any combination of colors. So in other words, say hello to another historic Brawl card. And finally, the last one in this lineup of absolute game-breaking trash, we've got Garruk, Wrath of the Wilds. Oh boy, Garruk's back. He's a 4-drop double green 3 loyalty, planeswalker of course, +1, choose a creature card in your hand, it perpetually gains +1/+1 and perpetually gains a spell cost 1 less to cast. Great. -1, draft a card from Garruk, his stupid spellbook, put it onto the battlefield. Okay, so you don't have to pay for it. That's nice. Can't imagine how bad that spellbook is. And then -5 until end of turn. Creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample. So in other words, get to 5, win the game. And you enter it, and then immediately +1 him, he's at 4. That's nice. Thanks for that. He sets up a giant attack and then just wins, and his ult is way too early, and I hate everything about this. I mean, he brings out his own blockers. We have enough of that shit with Lulth, and he's on color with the green-black Lulth hyper defense deck. So, awesome, great, whatever. Anybody stupid enough to buy into this format or burn a wild card on any of this trash or even play the new format, you must not have been listening to my channel. Or all of Reddit, all of Twitter, anywhere, you must have just taken this for face value and thought, wow, that looks like fun, which you're wrong. This is going to be the dumpster fire to end all dumpster fires, and if we ignore it long enough, maybe it'll go away. So I suggest you all do that. Do not jump in to test it just to see how it is, because the only way to do that is really to buy these cards, because they're all pretty overpowered shit, and every single common deck archetype is trash without them. I'm sure they did that on accident. Yeah, this is just a tax on standard people with a promise that this time we're going to manage it correctly, you guys. I've got a promise for you, Wizards. You won't have any customers left if you don't manage standard correctly. So start focusing on that and roll back this shit. So that's it for the Alchemy format overview, and hopefully that's it for the Alchemy format period. I'll see you guys next video.